Texas Tech 3-6 in Big 12 play, 4-6 overall. This is the landing spot for Tyler Shough, the former Oregon quarterback who arrives, and we got some raves, baby. We got coaches raving about how this guy just has to be run out of the facility. You know, he's working too hard, boys. He's too committed to getting better. New offensive coordinator Sonny Cumbie says he just can't say enough about him. You got to run him out of the facility. So hey, they're excited. You got your job as Texas Tech quarterback Tyler Shough is to score 38 points a game, because it does not seem to matter what kind of scheme we're running, what the players look like. Texas Tech defense is going to be giving up at least 35 points a game. So good luck, Tyler. At the wide receiver position, you lose TJ Vasher and a few more other key contributors, but Eric Azukama, right? Eric Azukama, I think, is going to be your wide receiver number one. Again, defensively, it's still Keith Patterson as the defensive coordinator. They weren't great last year. Not expecting them to be great this year. So the big headline is your new offensive coordinator and your new quarterback. Let's see if they can go put together one of the more high-end Texas Tech offenses, which at its ceiling historically can still be pretty darn good.
Danny, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about TCU about how the problems you felt like for TCU in recent years were offensively. Like offensively, they've struggled in recent years. And it's like, now we need to see them take that kind of step forward if TCU is going to take a step forward. Chip, you mentioned that Sonny Cumbie is Texas Tech's new offensive coordinator. Where did Sonny Cumbie spend the last 5 seasons as an offensive coordinator?
TCU.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to watch that this spring, but I do think that Texas Tech's offense last year was decent. You mentioned the defense as well. And that was a problem right from the start when against Houston Baptist, they were allowing 8 yards per play in the season opener. And you thought
all of the Baptists in Houston were allowed to score touchdowns against Texas Tech.
And that week you're telling yourself, well, COVID season, it's the first week, no real buildup. We shouldn't read too far into that. And it's true. They did not give up 8 yards per play again that season, but they didn't do much better against anybody. They had a few games where they were solid against Kansas and other bottom tier. I think Baylor, they played well. But other than that, it was we got a new coach who's bringing in a new style, but it was the same story with Texas Tech, where defensively, it didn't really matter what they did on offense because they were just going to give the points right back. So for me this spring, there's going to be plenty of tension on Sonny Cumbie and that offense and Shough coming in. But man, that team needs to take a step forward on the defensive side of the ball. And I have reasons to think it could happen, because when they made the Matt Wells hire, I thought it was a good hire. And to this point, I don't think I've seen the kind of impact that I thought he was going to have on this program. So I think this is a pretty big year for Matt Wells and this team and this program. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on the defensive side of the ball. So if I'm a Red Raiders fan right now, that's what all my focus is this spring.
Guess who was Texas Tech was actually number 1 in the country in something. You guys know what it is?
Turnovers?
Passes behind the line of scrimmage.
Hell yes.
35% of their passes were behind the line of scrimmage. Not coincidentally, they really didn't throw the ball at all to the slots or the tight ends. It was mostly just slip screens and swings to the backs.
And that was mostly with Alan Bowman got hurt for a little bit, right? With Michigan,
Henry Colombi came in. Yeah. Yeah. So that is something I would definitely expect to see improved with the new QB play, getting the ball down the field, actually working the ball between the hashes. Some might actually occur this year. That'd be solid. But really, if this team's going to improve, it has to get better on the defensive line. 115th last year in defensive line havoc. I mean, that's too many times opposing quarterbacks are operating with a clean pocket. And in the Big 12, that's just going to get you killed. So, and it did repeatedly, like Tom mentioned. So D-line improvement is my real question here. I think they'll be better at the QB position.
I think this team, obviously, I think it's a huge year for Matt Wells, although I didn't exactly inherit. I mean, it's kind of what Texas Tech has been. How hard is it to change the identity of great offense and subpar defense? But that's exactly what they've been for the past 10 to 15 years. Even Cliff Kingsbury, who somehow parlayed his 5-7, 6-7, 5-7 finish into a job with the Arizona Cardinals is still sort of beyond me because he's friends with Sean McVay, but that's a whole nother story. But if you look deeper in the results, I mean, how about the roller coaster ride of almost getting beat by Houston Baptist, then taking Texas to overtime in weeks 1 and 2 for Texas Tech, and you look deeper, like they were pretty competitive in a lot of their games. So like I have hope for them. I think Matt Wells, I covered him a couple times when he was at Utah State. I really liked him. I liked his energy. I thought he had a plan. I kind of feel like he's a good hire for Texas Tech, but at some point you got to start converting and winning some of those games. And I don't know, the Tyler Shuck thing was interesting because I was a little bit surprised when he left Oregon. I think he's a pretty good quarterback, so I think they'll get an upgrade at quarterback. So I think you'll see I think not a breakout season, but I think you'll see a better, more stable season with more wins as a result for Texas Tech.
Tyler Shuck says that Tyler Shuck got 20 to 30 calls when he put his name in the transfer portal.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I believe that.
No.
You guys, are you mocking him, Chip? Or are you saying, because I think he would be one that a lot of schools would call on.
20 to 30 seemed high, but I obviously didn't. That only is on. It did not make the notepad. It's just still on my mind.
It just resonated
Hating
with
ass
Yeah.
Chip.
A lot of these schools don't even need somebody like it's their job in the office to do their due diligence. So they go ahead and call just to figure out, okay, like why is a kid leaving? Do they find out something about that program that, maybe like they're interested in why he's leaving Oregon? They want the dirt. Like these schools call.
20 to 30. Multiple dozens. Tyler Shuck hater.